a very warm welcome from the BTS Career Zone. My name is Natalie Dawes, and it's a pleasure to be bringing yet another Career Pathways podcast to you. Today, I'm going to have a really good catch up with Kenny O'Donnell, who is the Lead Academy Training Manager for the M&G Wealth Advice Academy. The Academy is one of our brilliant BTS Career Zone featured companies, and in the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to delve deeper into what to expect in terms of training once academists have joined the Academy via Term 1 or Term 2. So Kenny, welcome. Tell us about your role at the M&G Wealth Advice Academy.
Yeah, sure. So my role, I'm an academy training manager at M&G Wealth Advice. And what that means, put simply, is that I'm training up the next generation of financial advisors. And we like to think that these advisors are coming on board highly motivated. And our role really is to try and develop and train them to become technically competent and highly skilled advice professionals. And for me personally, this is a really satisfying role, right? Because we've got an advice shortage in the financial planning sector, and it's really important that we address it. So amongst the kind of responsibilities that I've got, I take charge of the delivery and the delivery of our advisor training academy, which has a number of stages really. Including the exams, including getting people trained up on soft skills, on the process, on how to be able to develop their businesses, to learn about a proposition and so on. So there's lots of facets to it really. But I also have responsibility for interfacing with the rest of M&G as well. So I have a kind of strand over to the left-hand side that takes me into our chartered academy. And I'm also liaising with our project teams around various business projects, as well as liaising with other partners like our ops managers or T&C supervisors or partnership directors, so as to address all of their training needs.
That's quite an extensive job role there, Kenny.
Try not to spread myself too thinly.
So to avoid yourself spreading too thinly, have you got a team behind you that helps you with that stuff?
Yeah, exactly that. So we've got a fantastic team that supports. So if I think, first of all, within our academy, we've got, I think, 5 functions. So we've got our recruitment team, Jack Kennedy. We've got our onboarding team, which is made up of Vicky Delargy, Caitlin Crane, and a couple of other colleagues within our co-business, Sandringham. We've got our operations team, which is principally Avro Dallas and Nicola Carr. And then we've also got myself and Brian Tiernan within our training function. That function is going to be growing. And then we've also got our T&C supervisors. So currently within our academy, we have 4. That's Colin Grecian, Stephanie Fox, Stephen Fry, and Diane Faulkner. And that is our academy team that's headed up by Matthew Ings, our head of academy. Beyond that, though, we've also got different functions as part of the M&G Wealth business. So we've got systems support, we've got business development support, marketing support, operational support, legal advice and proposition, T&C, you name it, it's all there. So it's a fairly comprehensive team that we've got to support our advisors that are coming through.
Some of these people that you're talking about, I've had conversations with as well. So I think I'll say the same to you as I've said to everyone else that I've spoken to within M&G. And it's something that is really highlighted, irrelevant as to who you speak to. That support function is immense. It's such an operation in itself, that side, but so seamlessly run, it would seem. And it's, I think, to a candidate that is looking at the M&G Academy, that is something that really stands out. So I commend you for that, and everyone at M&G in how you run that. Let's get into the detail around if trainees onboarded onto the M&G Academy, what those first few days, weeks, months look like in terms of what they face first and what support is in place for them.
So it depends on what you mean by when they come on board, because we've got a couple of different parts to our programme. We've got stage 1, which is focused at exams, and then we've got stage 2, which is more around the kind of development of their soft skills, their advice practice skills, proposition and so on. So when advisors come on to stage 1, obviously what we do is we give them an induction call, and that induction call principally is around making sure that we set the scene so that they know exactly what has been discussed from the recruitment and their onboarding process. When they come on board to the training program, it's about making sure they know, right, what are the milestones, what are they aiming for. So our 12-month stage 1 training program enables advisors to go through their 6 units for the diploma in regulated financial planning. So we work with the CII, and I know that 1 or 2 other of our similar size firms maybe go with different providers. We've chosen the CII presently in that way. And what we do is we give them a study schedule. We walk them through the various training resources. There's a structured training program that goes with it. And that ultimately is designed to try and give them the very best infrastructure to succeed with their exams. We've found that works particularly well.
How does that work from the point of view of, because I'm right in thinking that stage 1 is very much about the individual staying within their existing role. So they do their exams alongside what they are currently doing. So that study schedule, what does that include, and how does that fit with their existing position?
Yeah, so in terms of what that looks like in terms of its structure, we have got weekly allocated training. So we've literally broken down the syllabus for each of the various chapters or learning outcomes within the units, and we allocate specific chapters and exercises on a weekly basis. And actually what that does is it helps us to ensure that the training that we've committed the advisors to is appropriate amount of study for them, because as you said, they might have existing work commitments, but they could also have some existing family commitments, caring responsibilities, yada yada yada. There's lots of different things that come into the mix, and so just making sure that we're not overwhelming delegates and asking too much of them, I think is important. Nonetheless, be under no illusions, right? You know yourself, Natalie, that studying for these exams is not for the faint-hearted, right? This is a tall order. 6 exams in 12 months is on average an exam every other month. So you need to find a rhythm, you need to build momentum, you need to maintain your confidence and your commitment all the way through. And that can be somewhat challenging. So to make sure that we help with that, our operations team, Avro and Nicola, engage with our delegates throughout that process to handhold our advisors, to be that kind of support, that emotional need that's there at various points in the journey as well. There's also some leave that were factored in for, over Christmas. You've got the festive period, and then in the summer we realise that there will be people wanting to take their families away in summer holidays, etc. as well. So there's flexibility in that programme. The kind of detail that sits alongside the programme, though, is how we support the advisors. So we provide the CII package, which is the enrolment package. So that includes all the kind of usual bells and whistles, your study textbook, both the hard copy and the digital version. Then we've got some practice questions. We've got some e-learning on there as well. We use 2 other systems in collaboration with the CII. We use a system called box.com, which is a large file sharing platform that M&G uses. And through that, we've created study packs. So the study packs work alongside each of the Enrolment Plus packages that our advisors have received that we funded. And that will contain some masterclasses, some exam workshops, which are dedicated and focused on helping the learners to synthesize some of the information. I always say that you'll never learn to drive a car by reading the car manual. So why would you expect to pass an exam by reading the study textbook, right? And the CII themselves point out at the beginning, I think early in the syllabus, that there are a few areas where you might need to go above and beyond that study textbook to truly prepare well for the exam. So the study text is part of it, but it's not the full solution. And actually, hearing from someone like myself or Brian, who have been involved in financial planning and training for a long, long time, been in the coalface as advisors, that means then that you've actually got that rich experience to call upon. So you can start to contextualize some of the detail that sits within the study text. And actually, that's where you see, the light bulb go off and people starting to make sense of it all.
Completely agree with you there. It's so important, that side of it as well, I think, because study materials is one side, but you need to be able to put that into practice, don't you? Apply that learning. But when you haven't got financial services experience, which is much the case in these academy scenarios, that can be really difficult, I think, for learners. So it's great that they've got individuals like yourself that they can draw that experience from. Okay, so you've talked about the study schedule. You've mentioned workshops as well. Are the workshops something that academists can attend, or have they got the option to watch something back from a recording? Because I think that's what you were getting at there. But if you give a bit of detail, that'd be great.
Yeah, no worries at all. So the resources that we're using and sharing with our advisors in order to help them prepare for exams are high quality learning resources. These are freely available to all our advisors. So if you think about the package that's available through the CII, you've got a revision mate portal that they can log into where they can access, amongst other things, a digital copy of the study text, the practice questions, the summarised notes, any updates to the syllabus. There's a forum on there as well, which I think they can use to exchange ideas with like-minded individuals that are training towards the exams. But on box.com, the workshop recordings that we've created alongside some of the ad hoc exam focus sessions, which, by the way, is literally me taking a couple of hours of my time on a recording with a group of delegates, walking them through an exam practice paper to actually demonstrate the technique of how you actually synthesize what is in the question, the key and important parts, what's emphasized or emboldened, the double negatives, all that kind of stuff, even the multiple response format questions. What is the way in which you navigate around that whilst managing your time? Showing them how to do that, and also applying some of the technical overlay that they'll need in order to be able to answer the question. That's a huge learning curve, and that's probably the biggest gateway I find. The feedback that we've received from our advisors who have joined those sessions is fantastic. So that seems to be the kind of the biggest plus point. And we're always getting demand for more of the same across all of those units, which is super encouraging.
That's fantastic. So let's think about now, you've got this wonderful structure in place. Let me ask you about things like pass rates. What happens when individuals perhaps dip out of an exam, which you and I both know happens no matter how much you work in terms of hard work, graft, blood, sweat, tears, all the rest of it towards an exam. From time to time, these things do happen. So how is that handled at M&G?
So first of all, on pass rates, take, for example, RO1. RO1, each of our cohorts in RO1 will fairly consistently range between 75 and 85% first-time pass rates, which I think is, we broadly measure ourselves against what the overall CII rates are. And I don't think they are released at least up to date for each year. But, as far back as we can see, I think 2023, I think, was the last release of the numbers. We're a good bit above what the average is for the CII. So that's telling us that the work that we're doing, the organisation and the structure that we've got in place is making a difference there. So that's encouraging. RO2 is also around 75%, but that's because we do prepare and forewarn our delegates that when they step up from RO1, RO2 is taking it on to a next level. It's a step up in terms of the volume of calculations, the complexity, and probably the experience that you maybe would ordinarily require to be able to contextualize some of that, some of the stuff that's talked about, investment philosophies, etc. So that's around 75%. RO3 is the main one that we struggle with, and that probably won't come as a surprise, because that is the one unit that I think lots of people struggle for time in the exam. It's a volume of calculation questions. Some of the questions are actually quite dense in terms of how much information is provided in the question set as well. So just trying to understand that and make sense of it all. So we spend a little bit more time in RO3 than we probably do in any of the other units, to be fair. RO4 is around 75%, which is really encouraging. That's, of course, our bread and butter for pensions, retirement planning, a big part of what we do here at M&G Wealth Advice. RO5, that's the only unit which is at level 3, and therefore, we encourage advisors not to take their foot off the pedal with RO5, because there's a tendency for them to think it's an easy exam. It's not. It's the one unit that I think we probably need to caution advisors. It's got a higher pass mark at 70% relative to the others at 65. Nonetheless, we've got close to a 100% pass rate for RO5, which is encouraging. And then finally RO6, which is, by the way, an altogether different type of exam. RO6 is a written 3-hour case study based exam, and it actually requires a whole different range of skill sets in order to be able to succeed in your preparation for it. We actually don't encourage investment. When I say we don't encourage, we actively pursue a route other than reading the study text for RO6. It's more practical. It's more getting your sleeves rolled up and thinking about, right, what do I need to do? Learning the various different techniques, thinking about examiner comments, questioning types, and how to lay out your answer, as well as timing and making sure that we're answering the question. And obviously, that's including all of the preceding 5 units that you will have learned about in the exam. So it's a lot. It's a big crescendo, if you like, of all the things that you will have learned about in your journey up to this point. And of course, the pressure's on because those exams are dated quarterly. And that means that, you know, if you were to fail that exam, then you delay your start into our stage 2 of our training journey, which is where you start to maneuver towards becoming a financial advisor and become client facing. So the pressure's on at that point. In terms of the second part of your question, which was how do we actually support advisors who fall behind? Look, it's clear that we need to support any candidate that's failed an exam, and it's really crucial for their own development and also their confidence to make sure that they've got that kind of support, and it's an effective support in place. So I think the first thing that we do in that regard is there's an immediacy around needing to reach out to those candidates to prompt them around making sure that we've got the kind of arm around the shoulder, you know, let them understand that we're here, we're available, and we're not going to, you know, allow them to fall by the wayside. It's also beneficial then to make sure that we check in with them, offer that reassurance, guide them on the next steps. So we're encouraging, we're helpful in that moment, but we also expect our candidates to be able to reflect properly, because part of the process of manoeuvring from an exam fail to an exam pass next time round is learning from what went wrong. So candidates need to obviously be encouraged to understand what feedback they had received. So the exam feedback that we get from CII is limited, right? We're told what scores they've got, percentage based on the volume of questions in each of the learning outcomes. So understanding and improving on any weaknesses is absolutely paramount. And we make sure then that we work with those advisors to support them in that moment. Now, that means that we need to maybe take a different tact, a different approach. That could be dependent on their individual learning preferences. We know some people, for example, are more orientated to be auditory or kinesthetic or more visual orientated advisors. And it's in those moments that we need to think about, right, are we delivering the solutions that they might need at that moment in order to cater to their own individual learning preferences, which is clearly a big stumbling block for some people. So supporting them, encouraging them, making sure we've got the right resources, and then also a retake policy, which is about making sure that we give them that structured support to get back on track. So it's really important that they attend the workshop 3. So we've got 2 workshops, workshop 1, workshop 2 for each of the units. Workshop 3 is only attended if you have failed each of the units. That third workshop, we get you onto that workshop once you've failed. That usually takes place about 3 to 5 days after the exam. And then they retake the exam about 10 days after the first attempt. And that patience, that preparation, that kind of organised structure usually does lead to good outcomes that means that we can give them the support, give them the feedback, make sure they've got the ample resources that are right for them, and then make sure that they can succeed at the next attempt. Long-winded answer.
No, not long-winded, comprehensive is what I would say.
Right, okay, thank you.
It's good, it's good. Okay, so we've talked about candidates and your pass rates, what happens, worst case scenario, and you dip out that first time. There's lots of structure in place there. Can anyone pass these exams?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, as I said before, be under no illusions, right? These exams are tough, right? Studying towards an exam is going to stretch you, particularly when these are all at level 4, excepting of RO5, of course, which is at level 3. But the diploma in regulated financial plan, if you're coming from any other background other than financial services, it can be difficult for you to actually think about, what does this actually mean? You might read a paragraph in your study textbook and struggle to understand what it means. So there's a real need for us to, alongside developing their technical competence, be able to develop their capability to contextualize and apply what is actually being learned out, to understand how that integrated practical application works. So that's a skill set in itself. And obviously, you've got 6 modules, as I mentioned, every other month. So that is a tall order. All it takes is something to go awry in your life for you to take ill health, or, worse still, you could have a death in the family, for example. These are difficult moments that could throw you off course. So you need to put the hard yards in, yes. The CII, I think, are going to recommend, typically it's between 60 and 100 hours for most units. If you're not from a financial services background, as I say, you're going to need significantly more. And take, for example, RO1, right? RO1 is a syllabus that will cover a real kind of broad range of topics. So they'll look at investments, they'll look at pensions, they'll look at social security benefits, legal aspects like lasting powers of attorney and wills, right? But the main focus is, of course, regulation, ethics, and that isn't most people's idea of fun. I know it's your idea of fun because you love RO1, don't you? You wear the T-shirt and everything. But for most people, if they struggle to sleep at night, you would say, I'd recommend the RO1 study textbook, right? It'll help you get to sleep, no problem at all, right? Better than any pill that you'll take. But the truth is that we expect people to commit an appropriate amount of time to study for each module, and we rely on them to be able to be disciplined with their time to make sure that they can then use that time sensibly to maneuver through the study schedule. The study schedule, by the way, I must send a copy of it over to you to get your thoughts on it, Natalie. It's basically just a grid, right? So imagine you've got a grid with a couple of check boxes, and it just walks you through, right? Have you read the chapter? Tick. Have you then completed your e-learning? Tick. Have you then assessed your knowledge by doing the knowledge assessments? Tick. What knowledge areas did you get wrong? That's your gap fill, right? Have you gap filled? Tick. Right, move on to the next one. And then we repeat that process. So that structured approach, we think, works relatively well. So, yeah.
I think sometimes keeping it simple with something like that is the
That's it.
thing that somebody needs to keep them on track, rather than have this really, all bells, whistles, all of this wonderful stuff coming off of that. And it can just be a distraction. So I think that's probably the better way to go. Happy to have a look though, mainly because I'm nosy.
They don't
Um,
call you nosy Natalie for
no,
nothing.
no, no, no. We've got that trending, that hashtag. I love it. Kenny, thank you for that detail. Can we talk a little bit about stage 2? Thinking about when that begins. So maybe that's the link here of when you have then taken your RO6 and talking about your quarters that you've got, I think, with what is your intakes at the academy. So let's talk about that link between RO6, how you get on to stage 2 and what happens next.
Yeah, so beyond stage 1 and moving into stage 2 is a process that should be fairly seamless, because our academy operations team will be working alongside you during that period to ensure lots of things are in place so that you are in a really good position for you starting your journey to become a financial advisor. So things like making sure your business is set up, making sure you've got things like your ICO license that you may not have thought about, making sure that we know that you've got a business bank account, right? So that we can pay you when you generate new business. All the basic stuff, right? We've got a huge checklist of different things that if you follow that checklist with the support of our operations team, you'll be in a really good place. And that's where stage 2 starts to really come to fruition, because stage 2 is about setting you up for success. So the key components to our stage 2 training program, let me just kind of give you the kind of bird's eye view of it, if I may. So we've got 39 days currently on our stage 2 training program. I say currently because that does deviate based on the tweaks and changes, those iterative changes that we make to the program from time to time. But in essence, what we're doing is we're training you up around how to actually do the role. So the key components of the role are your meetings with clients. So can you possess the soft skills to deliver a fact-find meeting? So following the advice sales process all the way through. So within that fact-find meeting training, they're looking at things like your own unique personality and thinking about how you then work with different types of personalities. We'll also train out how you introduce and position the client meeting, how you do the mandatory services and cost disclosure, right? As well as the important part, which is gathering information. So we know that within fact finding, of course, you've got your hard facts, you've got your soft facts. We train out something called, I don't know if you've heard of this before, but the lifeline. We use the lifeline as well. So we train out the lifeline, which is probably the most important and interesting part of the client meeting. It's where we start to understand the client's drivers, the motivations, you know, what's causing them to have certain values, beliefs, and preferences. So we train that out. We train out advanced questioning techniques, amongst many other things. And weaved in throughout all of this, there is some of the mandatory stuff that we need to do about recognising and handling complaints, financial promotions, information security, data privacy, all these kind of usual things. I think financial crime's the other one. And then we start to move into things like earmarking, needs analysis. We move on to some of the literature that we share with clients at that initial point of the meeting. So things like our investment guides, walking clients through inflation, interest rates, multi-asset class solutions, diversification, and so on. Before then, establishing what the client needs, what's their budget, what are they looking to do, starting to have a plan then for moving them further forward into the advice sales process, their attitude to risk, their capacity for loss, all these key components that help us to maneuver forward to closing out that meeting to a high order. And within all of that, we're starting to think about client vulnerability, clients that might need additional support, signposting where clients can access information and get digitally signed up to our business. There's lots of great stuff in there. So that's the kind of starting point. Then we move on to assessments. Now, when I say assessments, right, people get themselves tied up in knots, but actually role-playing different scenarios in different settings with different personality types, different need areas as well. This is where we find that there is a real strength in what we do, because we push the boundaries. We get people outside their comfort zone, and that's where we start to feel, confident in what we're strong at and actually identify some of those weaker areas so that we can help improve on. And that allows us then to bespoke the training at a one-to-one level for when they maneuver on to the next stage. Beyond the fact find, we then introduce some of the proposition training. And the reason we do this, first of all, is because if you think about the journey of a client meets with their financial advisor. So we do the fact find meeting first. When the financial advisor has had that meeting, they step away from that client meeting, they go back to their office or back home, and then they start to build their financial plan. So then what we do is we introduce the proposition training. And it's not about product selection or product picking, but it is important that we understand what solutions are available. So we literally walk through all elements of our proposition, including but not limited to protection. So what is our protection process or proposition? What do our products look like? Technically, how does that work in different settings? How then do you translate that when you're in front of a client, right? So how do you then effectively sell this to a client, right? Recommend your solutions to a client. Then we've got our investment wrappers. So ISAs, pensions, bonds, etc. We do exactly the same there. The technical side, the products, various changes relating to some of the regulatory or legislative updates that have come about, even since last year when we had that autumn statement and announcements of changes around pensions, for example. We train people up around our platform, right? So we've got a platform as well. So how to use that. And that's different in terms of the systems and processes that operate in the background. So we weave into that some of the unique differences there. And then also our model portfolio service. So we've got everything that we need from protection to technical, or across investment solutions, across the different investment wrappers. Then we've also got some of our third-party introducers. So things like Age Partnership, we partner with them for doing things like lifetime mortgages, etc. We also partner with Kinherit and Co-op to do things like wills, power of attorney, any other legal services that we need to implement. We introduce the advisors to our technical team as well. So you know Les Cameron well, I'm sure. So Les has a big part to play. We've got a tech hub, which is, I think, probably the envy of most firms within the industry, right? Our tech hub is fantastic. So we make sure that we integrate that into the training program alongside introductions to our advice and proposition team who write our advice policy, stitch it all together, and then we talk to the advisors at this stage about our revenue flows, our commercial arrangements, so that they know that the solutions that they're recommending, how does it work from a revenue flow perspective and from a commercial perspective. So helping them understand when they get paid, how much they will get paid, when to expect it to land in their bank accounts, all that kind of stuff. Beyond this, we'll also then train them up on systems and process. It's all good and well knowing what you can do, but then actually going to apply it is somewhat different. So training them up on the core system that we use, and then making sure then that they can build good quality cases. So we've spent quite a lot of time recently around improving this area of our training at stage 2, which is around case building. So making sure that we give them the support and the guidance, the tools and the walkthroughs to support them around building quality cases. Because all first cases that advisors get will go through our advice quality team to get checked. And it's important that we get first time right success as often as we can with that. It's also important to make sure that our suitability reports are appropriately personalised, that we're managing the case in terms of the file itself, making sure everything's compliant. We've reviewed all our tasks, and we shine a torch by getting some of the advisors that have previously come through our academy journey into this mix at the same time, by allowing them to share their insight and offering some opportunity for Q&A with advisors as well. Closer towards the end of the Stage 2 training programme, we get to a presentation meeting part. And the presentation meeting training is around the second meeting. So this is after you've gathered information at the fact find, met with your client for the first time. This is after you've learned about a proposition and developed your understanding around systems and process. It's now about, right, you've prepared your suitability report, the client's financial plan. You now need to take this to the client and present your advice. So we start by re-establishing the client needs, presenting the solution, explaining the recommendation and why it's suitable. Objection handling training, we do quite a bit of work around objection handling as well, so to make sure that clients are moving forward for what's right for them in the right order, and then completing paperwork and closing out with next steps and any referrals. Similar to what we did with the fact find meeting training, we assess them on this as well. So again, role plays in different settings, allowing them to oil the wheels and get more comfortable and confident. I should add, I've not had anyone beyond the assessments that have come to me and said, I wish I didn't do that. Everyone, well, I say everyone, some people, most people probably go into those meeting assessments and are feeling a lot, well, they might be filled with trepidation, let's say, because they've never done that before. It feels new or different to them. But actually, having done it for the first time, it sets them up so much better for success, so that when they go into that client meeting for the first time, they've got the confidence knowing, I've already done this. I've done it several times before. I've practiced it. I know the techniques. I've developed it. I've had the feedback. And that's really important. The kind of final stages, Natalie, to this then are around making sure that we set our advisors up for success. So we provide a warm transition, a handover into what's stage 3, which is when they go live in front of clients, where they'll be giving advice under supervision. So we introduce them to their T&C supervisors. We coordinate things like we use Microsoft Bookings to make sure that we can then, when we've got leads from the Prudential backbook, we have those leads filed into Microsoft Bookings, so it goes straight into their diaries. So that just optimizes their efficiency, their effectiveness. We also make sure that they're trained up on ongoing reviews, making sure that they know how to manage those. And then finally, it's about business planning and making sure that we've got the right client acquisition strategies in place. So it's all good and well knowing how to perform the role as a financial advisor and being suitably qualified, but can you go out and win business, right? That's really important. So we train advisors up, and I've written some workshops around building successful professional connections, workplace financial advice and education, how to win targeted referrals on LinkedIn. We've got a depository document that we use, and on that you've got some key contacts like family members, protection policy trustees, etc. That's also a cross-referral opportunity. So we train them up on that. We train them on how to grow their client base using events, and also the art of networking. So we train them up on the opportunities within there. And then finally, and this is probably the best part, Natalie, and if you want to steal my idea, you're more than welcome, but we actually get all the advisors to prepare a business plan right from the beginning, and that's a moving feast, right? It never stops. That business plan should never be complete. It always changes. And the reason for that is because all that information that I've just shared around stage 2 training, it starts to evolve and shape their business plan. So the timeline might move, the commercials might change, the drivers and the success criteria might evolve. But effectively what we're doing in the final day is we do, it's almost like Dragon's Den, right? We get them to pitch in various different groups remotely what their business plans look like to one another. And they've got 15 to 20 minutes to do it. So they need to get right to the point, get sharp and to the point. We get them to critique one another in their groups and then vote for who is the overall winner. And then we bring it into a final round where we might have had, say, 4 groups of 4. And then in the next round, we've got 4 candidates. And then we need to vote on who's got the best business plan. Now, there isn't necessarily a prize, but what people get from this is by doing it in this way, you've got that cross-fertilization of ideas and thoughts and suggestions that if you say something, I might just think to myself, oh, I didn't think of that. And actually, that could be really useful to my success moving forward. So maybe I need to incorporate that and do that within my own plan. And we get fantastic feedback. So that takes them through 39 days. And as I say, weaved in throughout that is some of the mandatory testing that we need to do from a compliance point of view. So our training and competence team, we need to make sure that we've ticked certain boxes, and there will be a blended learning approach to this. It will be some LMS, it will be some remotely delivered sessions where you'll be in group-based settings. Some of it will be classroom-based. We like to think that we've got a good balance to it right now, but I can promise anyone that's coming onto a stage 2 training program prospectively that you'll have the very best, latest version of stage 2 training, and it will set you up very much for success as you get started. I'll stop talking now.
You can carry on. This is fascinating. I know I've said that before, but I think one of the things that when I'm having these conversations, some of the things you said there around the business plan and how it evolves, it's an ever-moving feast. I've had a really lovely chat with Stephen Christie and Alan Ferrell, and they were very much talking about that piece. But hearing this stage 2 piece in the level of detail that you've given it, it kind of highlights all of that and puts it all into sort of context and how it really works. It's this kind of stuff that we know it happens, but we don't really understand how. And you've just given that in some fantastic detail. And I think 39 days, that's a lot of stuff within 39 days. So something we haven't spoken about, or you haven't, is around the fact that is a full-time thing. So you finished your stage 1, you've given your notice on your existing role, and you come into stage 2 to do that full-time. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So when our advisors have gained their qualification, we usually probably around RO4. So we work sequentially, RO1 to RO6, right? Usually at the timing at around RO4, we commence our operations team to engage with the advisors around getting your business set up, your ICO, etc., etc. That allows us then to understand if you're working full time, and yes, stage 1 is part-time flexible. Stage 2 is full-time inflexible. You must attend. It's mandatory for you to attend those 39 days on the Teams chats. And it's important that we make sure that that's nice and clear right from the outset. And the reason it's important is because it's such a crucial part in their journey. When they come on board, they will have resigned their position. We ask them that they have got sufficient earnings to be able to sustain themselves for a period of 6 months or more. That means, therefore, that if they meet that criteria, then they are suitably positioned to go through their stage 2 training, and also there will be a period of delay between day 1 of stage 3 when they start meeting clients, and then also the period when they actually start getting paid for any business that they write. Because you know yourself, right? If you write a pension transfer case, right, you're at the mercy of the seeding scheme provider to give you the information. There might be a couple of things that you need to go back and forth on, and it could be 2-3 months before you make any traction on it. So for that reason, it's important that we make sure that we're not compromising advisors, and we give them the very best intel in terms of what kind of resources you're going to need in order to be successful, and not find yourself foul of can't pay the bills, right? We don't want anyone to be in that situation. So it's about being honest and fully transparent with advisors around that, around those things at the outset. Yeah.
That honesty, transparency, and I know that I've said this about lots of other areas as well, but this is genuinely another thing that is consistently present no matter who we interact with at the Academy, and rightly so. So continuing this, I'd like to round this session up, Kenny, if I may, with one further question. For a potential trainee academist to join you, if they are looking at all of their options, sort of a double-barreled question here. One, why look at the M&G Wealth Advice Academy? And secondly, how do they prepare for that with all of the things that we've talked about today that they might have coming?
Well, I think the first thing that I would say, Natalie, is look, M&G is a fantastic business to partner with, and the reasons you might choose to partner with M&G, if you go on and do a little bit of digging around our history, you'll see that we've been around for a long, long time, right? We've been in this industry for an incredibly long time. We've worked with the working classes for a long time, and we know our brief, right? We know what we do. And I think the key thing that is synonymous with our company and our brand, our reputation, is that it's centered around trust and innovation. Those are the key things. And if you think about the kind of crucial skills that advisors need to possess, building trust is absolutely front and center of that in financial advice. Clients need to trust their advisor. When you're sat in front of a client, clients are going to be sharing sensitive information about their personal financial affairs with you. So you need to instill that confidence in your client that you have got their best interests at heart, and that you're competently capable of managing their money and their financial futures, because it affects their lives, it affects their families, and that's quite emotive, right? That's the important part of the role. So making sure that you're joining the hip with a firm that is appropriately empathetic and can train you up on the skills that you'll need: active listening, effective communication, building and maintaining trust. All these key cornerstones of what makes a really good financial advisor is absolutely front and center. And the types of candidates that we're looking for are ones that have got clear purpose around the why. So we want to make sure that they know themselves why they want to become a financial advisor. And then it's literally making sure that we then demonstrate the commitment and the drive to successfully work through our training program to make that come to fruition. And I think one of the things that we've not touched on today is resilience, right? Resilience is a big factor for me, because we've talked about the demands of training up 6 units on a difficult qualification, and then the financial resources that need to be in place, a full-time training program, client-facing. If you think about this all in one go, it's not for the faint-hearted, because you're going to be setting up in business perhaps for the first time. So you'll be your own boss. You've got the financial demands of making it work, because if it doesn't work, then you could be worse off as a result. You've got to pass your exams in a certain order, and you've got to impress us to make sure that we can see that you're going to be a successful candidate all the way through. So resilience is absolutely crucial, and it's multifaceted as well. So I think all of that combined, it's really important to make sure that advisors know that before they step into the breach. And when advisors do apply all the things that I've mentioned, then they can succeed. They will make sure that they've understood their clients' circumstances, their goals, their concerns. They'll be asking the right questions in the right order for the right reasons. And they'll be interpreting lots of different things from their clients to fully grasp their needs and understand it. And it's that kind of client-focused approach that I think M&G has been particularly good at, and will continue to be focused at as we move forward. So, yeah, I think those are the key strands: making sure we build the trust, making sure that we maintain that good reputation that we've built up over a long period of time, because we're client-focused, and we respect our clients. We make sure that we're fully committed to meeting their needs and their aims for the future.
Oh, Kenny, thank you. What a great way to bring this session to a close. Just listening to you there and also reflecting on the stuff that you've so brilliantly talked us through today. I think my biggest takeaway here is that it's not just about the exams, it's not just about processes or soft skills and so forth. In fact, it's more than that. It's well rounded, real wraparound support, resulting in what really matters: good client outcomes. And clients are very much at the heart of what you do here in terms of support. Thank you, Kenny, so much for joining us today. If you'd like to hear more about the Academy, you can visit the M&G Wealth Advice Academy featured company page on the BTS Career Zone. You can, of course, get in touch with us anytime at BTS. We are always so happy to have a chat. I hope you've enjoyed this session as much as I have. Thanks so much for listening.